Welcome back. I'm Jocelyn Bamford. My guest today is Bryan Gould, President and Chief Executive Officer of Aspenleaf Energy. Before we went to the break, we were talking about how the shift in many citizens of the world's view on the fossil fuel industry and how has inflation fueled a more realistic view amongst ordinary Canadians?
So obviously people are feeling pain at the pump, Jocelyn. I should point out for your listeners that there are a lot of steps between us producing crude oil and natural gas and what they experience at the pump, because that crude oil, for example, has to go through refineries and marketing. So there's lots of steps to contribute to their cost at the pump, including a very significant amount of taxes. So some of this is driven by the world price of crude oil, and some of it is driven by other factors. Unfortunately, in my view, the world price is what it is, largely because of chronic underinvestment in the fossil fuel industries, partly driven by what I would consider a mythical view about sort of a fun, fast, and easy transition to other forms of energy. And I'm not anti other forms of energy. In fact, I'm pro all energy, but I think we need to be realistic about pragmatic costs and timeframes to transition our systems.
So, Bryan, a lot of large companies are now on the ESG bandwagon, and it seems like this is the flavor of the month for many large companies, not really understanding the impact on Canadian citizens, jobs, our economy, and the manufacturing sector. So how did they get so many companies to sign on with net zero and the UN Agenda 2030? And how's that going to affect affordability and jobs here in Canada?
So I'm going to answer a slightly different question, Jocelyn. So for me, there's good parts of ESG, but those good parts have existed for time immemorial. So good governance of a company has existed for time immemorial. Managing and maintaining relationships with key stakeholders and employees has always been a part of running a successful business, as has being protective and sensitive to environmental impacts. So in my mind, there's really nothing new about that. What is new is the way I think corporate governance is being overridden by outsiders with no accountability towards the investment community. Now, why people are signing on in the fashion they are, I can't speak for others, but I would conjecture that CEOs are actually very fearful now. We now live in a society, cancel culture, et cetera, where the herd is moving in a direction and CEOs are afraid to speak their mind and say what they really think for fear of being attacked by outsiders who don't invest in their companies and have no stake and no interest. So to me, it's a sad commentary on, frankly, an erosion of freedom of expression and freedom of speech.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing it. And it used to be that CEOs would be focusing on their customers, their shareholders, and their employees. And now it seems like they focus on the mainstream media, politicians, and activists. And that's really not going to get us to where we need to be. Bryan, I'm hearing from almost every manufacturer and business that are struggling with affordable energy. And how do you think the current federal government's position on the oil and gas industry is impacting affordable energy?
So I start, Jocelyn, with a negative narrative. So the whole off fossil fuel, we don't need this stuff. It's nasty, it's dirty. And the faster we can get rid of it, the better. And on the one hand, and on the other hand, what I would call this mythical thinking of, a transition is fun, fast, and easy. And transition will take a long time. It will be costly. It will be difficult. And in fact, the technologies that we require for that transition to a large degree don't exist, let alone supply chains, access to materials, geopolitical concerns. So this is a big, complex issue, which will not be transitioning nearly as fast as people talk. And we will need fossil fuels for a very long period of time to come and require investment to maintain that supply.
So in the 30 seconds we have left, what do you think the impact of all of this is going to be on Canadian jobs?
I think it has a negative impact on Canadian jobs. As you pointed out, high energy prices spin through the economy. It's going to lead to high food prices, loss of manufacturing jobs, and a monumental lost opportunity for us to export our products that are much needed by our allies, particularly in Western Europe.